From a storytelling aspect, every time you think you know what's going to happen, we pull the rug out from under you. Okay, so those first few episodes we're setting things up, and then just as you get comfortable and you think this is the show, we do the hospital episode. What we spent a lot of time in the writers' room working on is that everybody has to have a specific point of view, and we don't want that just to be black and white. We want people to really live in what their perspectives are. I'm very proud of the scene with Robin and Barbara. I think they just that's a wonderful scene. I was waiting all season to get those two on stage to kind of have a philosophical debate, but you really feel like they're both right to some degree, and that's the whole thing, is that everybody, I feel, is right.
Something that's happened with the show, and certainly early on, is there was not that clear presence of what is this and what is that, and people, I think, struggled to differentiate for themselves. It became, the waters were a bit too muddy for some people, and I think that's something that is probably the case here with regards to that good and evil sort of aspect. It doesn't necessarily mean that there has to be a physical representation of, so that people can go, whatever that person is doing is good, whatever Damien is doing is bad. I don't think it's as clear cut as that.
Detective Shea, everyone thinks he's insane. He's completely right. Everything he's saying is right. So that's kind of fun to have everybody so committed to a point of view, and yet all those points of view are right, and then we somehow turn it all upside down too. That was really a lot of fun for us to work on as writers. When Anne Rutledge is grieving for her daughter, she's having a sincere emotional reaction, and hopefully you're moved by that. But you don't expect her to have that humanity, and yet she's the person who's willing to, orchestrate this entire, ascension, as she calls it.
For Damien, I don't think he's going to be aware of whatever he's doing being good and evil. I think he's just going to be making choices that suit him, and suit him in the sense that I believe that there are people who we view as altruistic, and I don't believe that for a second. I don't believe anyone's altruistic. I believe if you can do something for lots of people, but the benefit that you get from that, of helping out lots of people, takes away the idea of altruism. And the reward you almost get from people saying, "Oh, well done, you helped a lot of people." Like, that's, and it's good that if that's all you need, and you're still helping out lots of people, that's great. But I think that Damien could find himself in that situation, doing something for a lot of people, which he sees as good. But I want to take out that idea of altruism. I think, because I don't believe in it at all in people anyway. Not pure altruism. I believe there is that to a level, but you're always going to receive some sort of benefit. I've gone off on a wild ride about altruism.
I could see him, we haven't started any work on a season 2, but I could see him, building an evil church and sort of, teaching people about, his understanding of reality, But it wouldn't be that much of a stretch to say, well, if this appears to be a prophecy coming true, isn't that God's work and not necessarily Satan's plan? So, so if I'm supposed to, bring about the suffering of untold millions, well, that's preordained. In the book of Revelation, the Antichrist is described as a Messiah. We say this in episode 1. He's a false Messiah. People worship him. So when Shea drops to his knees, he's actually, converted. He believes he's witnessed a miracle. He's a disciple, let's say. So I think that's what the track that I would like to go down, is that, Damien is seen as a force for good, and yet he has this evil nature with him, this power. He wants to control it on his terms. There's clearly supernatural forces that have their own plan, and he's entered into, and this is the key phrase, that was something that was, this last scene was really thought of before we even sold the show. This was part of the thing. This is a Faustian bargain. Okay, so he's entering into a contract. He's actually signing, a contract with the devil with his own blood, and now he has to pay. That's not a contract you can get out of easily. So he has to still go down, and you know, I'm sure he'll always be reluctant to some point, but it's a process, you know, and we do, you know, in my mind, you know, hopefully the show will be around and we'll get to tell the story, but this is the Antichrist who will bring about the apocalypse. I think we've been on that track. We just haven't done it any way that people have expected us to.
The biggest challenge was, what was the biggest challenge? That's an interesting question, because it was a challenging role, and that's what drew me to it. I sort of described it as a cathartic experience, because Damien, as you're probably aware, he's got something of a stressful lifestyle. He's carries a lot of pain around with him, whilst trying to get on with it. He doesn't just sort of wallow in it most of the time. He's seen a lot. He's been through a lot. He's seen a lot more than most 30-year-olds have, and so the experience for me was having to very much dig into my own pain resources and use those, and through that exploring a lot about myself, really, which you don't really get to do in other professions, in such a way that you know, you can bring it to your job. But when you're acting, you can, you know, go through all manner of crap that's happened in your life and use it to your benefit. I'm making that sound like a sad experience, like I was going through, you know, a torturous time, but it was a very enjoyable experience, because I just loved the character from the moment I read the script. I sort of related to him and felt for him from very early on, and yeah, just got to use a lot of myself in certain moments where yeah, certain life experiences I've had set me up quite nicely for certain scenes. So that was the challenge, connecting the two and relating that to an audience.